Welcome into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. Darren Newsom with us as well. We're Sports Time, and we're with you for the next 3 hours, and plenty to get into this afternoon, but it's going to be a whole lot of college football as Week 0 is behind us. Week 1, we're here. Games Thursday night, games Friday, games Saturday, games Sunday, game Monday. I mean, football everywhere coming up this week, and I know we're all excited about that. So we're going to talk a ton about what happened over the weekend, and then a lot of previewing for not only the season, but what is to come this weekend for Week 1. But Brett, how are you this afternoon? How was your week off last week?
Brian, it was real good. Great to be with you and Darren, with our great audience. Terrific job y'all did with Connor last week. Thank you so much. And Zach Boyd. Yep. Appreciate him so very much. And all together now, TGIFS. Thank God it's football season.
That's right, yes. I was a little slow on that one.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right. We'll get there by the end of the week.
I went fast. There will be a point Saturday night, Brian, in Oxford. No cheering in the press box,
sure.
Even though hometown radio sometimes can violate that. But you can't out there with the guys that are trying to work. You don't need to be a gigantic cheerleader. I violated it at times, though. But there will be a point that I'll go out on the photo deck when it's good and loud in the stadium and just have that primal scream.
We're
and go back to my chair.
Yes, you got to. It's exciting just watching. Week 0 got me excited, and honestly,
3 great games Saturday.
Oh, I mean, the whole day, just every single game that was on was thrilling, and I think every underdog covered on Saturday, and we had one underdog outright win in Georgia Tech, Florida State, but I think 2 underdogs could have won outside of that one. So it was a really fun day for Week 0, and now here comes Week 1 where it's going to be football everywhere.
And get ready for this. Adam Jones, the tailback at Montana State, freshman from Missoula, Montana, no prayer he's at Montana State next year. He will be the Cody Schrader for somebody in the SEC next year. Did you see him pull away on that 95-yard run? When he had guys with angles on him and they couldn't catch him?
Yeah, no, it was incredible. I was actually I was listening to that part because I was driving somewhere, and so I had the Montana State radio broadcast on in my car.
Oh, I bet that was great.
Oh, it was. Even though I was cheering for New Mexico, but it was, and then I had to go back once I got to the place I was driving to. I had to go back and pull up the video and watch the run. But that was a great game as well. And so, just some really good football all over the place on Saturday.
And then Saturday night, it was really 4 good games, 3 great games and 1 decent game. I didn't get the TV for Hawaii. It was too hard to find.
Yeah.
What about Lambeau Field setting in at Reno at kickoff?
Yeah. Who would have thought that? And they said, what did they say pregame? It was right before the game kicked off. They were like, we were expecting sunny and 81, and it's raining and 50 here. I was like,
wasn't close to 50.
It was.
Everybody had on gloves.
Yeah.
I mean, turn on an August game from Reno and the Liberty Bowl broke out.
When they showed the mountains right there by the stadium, they got snow on top of them. You're like, holy cow, this is interesting. So you're absolutely right. It was that was a weird game from start to finish, but a good one too.
You know what Georgia Tech showed? They showed a lot of things, but they had. For Saturday's game, I don't think they do they may at one of these 2 positions. But on offense, they had the superior player in Haynes King. And on defense, Kyle Eford was far superior to all those beautiful players for Florida State.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. I thought, Georgia Tech, when it came to game plan, coaching, and definitely, in some of the position battles, they had the upper hand on Saturday, and it was a little surprising. And so, talk about that defense, you talk about that quarterback, that running back. I mean, Jamal Haynes was really good in that game. I was really
the lines of scrimmage.
They murdered Florida State in the trenches. I mean, because I had heard so much leading up to that game about get ready. Florida State's offensive line is going to be one of the best they've had in a really long time, and I mean, they went out there and just got whipped from start to finish.
Sure was. It sure did, and it was a whipping for Georgia Tech. I thought all summer Haynes King was, and forever will be a better player than DJU. I never dreamed straight up upset though. I thought just scare them And for the Tigers, I think it doesn't matter. The Tigers still have kind of that house money game against them, but I think that hurt the Tigers for this reason. Georgia Tech's got a tough game a week from tonight against Boston College. I sure don't need FSU losing that game.
No.
But if the Tigers win, and I've been hinting about it all summer, and I let it go in a couple of public forums last week, I've got the Tigers beating FSU in that game. You know, I've thought it all summer, kind of off the air, off the record. I was going to go with it, but I'm still going to go with it. But now with that win, you're going to have a lot of people kind of young go, well, Georgia Tech beat them, Memphis beat them. And now the really tough part of that, if the Tigers lose to them, well, Georgia Tech beat them. How come Memphis couldn't? That's not fair, but that's going to happen.
No, I think you're right. It's definitely going to happen. And I was talking to somebody the other day. I guess it was Saturday when that game was over, and I was kind of saying, with this loss for Florida State, I think the trendy pick now is going to be Memphis over Florida State. Come that game in a couple of weeks. But I still think it's going to be a great game. I told John earlier today, because John kind of brought it to me, and he said, I think there's two schools of thought here. There's one school of thought of this makes you feel good if you're a Memphis fan that they have some issues and Memphis can go out and beat them. And then there's the other school of thought of, well, now they're just going to be really they're going to be mad and they're going to really want to prove it to everybody and whatever. I said I didn't take anything away from that game in terms of the game against Memphis. Week 0 in Dublin, a conference game. Like, I want to see this Florida State team against Boston College, like you said, Brett, which is going to be a very tough test. I mean, they could not defend the run. Now you go against Boston College, who has an incredible running quarterback, an elite athlete in the backfield there. So, I still want to see this Florida State team. I still think it's going to be a tough matchup for Memphis. And, if they go down there and win, no matter what happens, I mean, Florida State could go in 0-2, and play Memphis, and it'll still be a great win for the Tigers.
Sure will be.
And if they lose that game and Florida State's 0-2, at the end of the day, it means nothing because you just want to be perfect in conference play.
Move on. And old school being last year, that sends FSU deep to the back of the line. It moves them back in the line, but it doesn't move them deep into the back of the line anymore with the playoff spots. And on Friday, we will do our final college football playoff bracket prediction. And even with that loss, I'm still going to have FSU exactly where I had them, and that's 12th.
I have a PSA for Tiger fans.
Okay, hit us with it.
You ready? All right, so as soon as the game
slow melodic background music behind a public service.
I should have. I actually have Joe Tessitore keyed up because that Joe Tessitore call was absolutely phenomenal.
Screaming Joe in midseason form.
So just quickly, guys, to the Tiger fans, I implore you, do not take Florida State's kindness for weakness. That game was decided on a last-second kick in a stadium 6 hours ahead of us. Our game is a true road game in Florida State. And if Florida State was in the AAC, even with that loss, they would still be expected to run the table. So stay thirsty, my friends. Don't give in. Stay focused on game one, Tiger fans. That's it.
Amen.
That was great.
Love that.
It hit me as soon as the game was up because exactly what stats, as well as you were alluding to, there's going to be people saying, why can't we beat them? That game was not a true road game. Do not be forgetting about that. This game,
Here's another one. Seth Hennigan's better than both of those quarterbacks Saturday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely have.
And sure better than Preston Stone.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
So I say stay focused on game one. I don't even want to skip that far. I want the Tigers to think big, think like Ohio State thinks like Michigan thinks, how Alabama thinks. This is not it's not a marathon. No, it's a quick sprint.
This week at practice, how much do you think they're really working on UNA? Don't you think they're already working on Troy?
Yeah. They're definitely on to Troy, I would say. I mean, what did it come out at 36.5-point favorite?
Scout teams running Troy stuff, aren't they?
I mean, with so much on the line with the playoffs, I just don't want them to lose focus.
Right.
That's all. I want them to stay business-minded the entire season.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about that makes it different for Memphis, and it will make it different for Boston College and other teams out there is North Alabama played on Saturday, and so they will have film from this year to look at this week for UNA. So, yes, I think everything on field during practice is gearing up towards Troy, and maybe in the film rooms we're watching stuff about UNA, maybe especially early in the week, just to know what they're going to come out there and show. But I don't think anybody's worried about that game on Saturday, even though, of course, Ryan Silverfield today, when talking to the media, gave his coach speak and said, we got to come out there and be locked in, and if we don't, we're going to be in for a rude awakening. But
see, his job is different than our job.
Very, yes. I'm not coming here to give coach speak and say we got to be worried about UNA.
His pay stubs are very different than our pay.
Yes, very much so. Yes.
Speaking of pay stubs, CeeDee Lamb, should be a shocker to absolutely no one.
Listen to the hand claps.
Yes, you knew that deal was going to get done, and Darren, you're not sweating Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk.
I sweat Trent. I don't sweat Ayuk. We have too many weapons. But Trent, absolutely. If Trent is not in camp, man
49ers open on Monday Night Football at home against Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. He'll be in that lineup.
I hope so. I hope so.
With
that front seven, though, that's one of the best front sevens in the game. We would need to have him there.
I think you got preseason behind you. It's now time for the front office to get down and dirty with the roster. I think all this stuff is. You saw, CD get done. I think you're going to see a lot of these. Whether
Brett, you should have heard Brian. He was yelling Super Bowl in the hallway.
What can I say?
We picked the NFC tomorrow at 5.
We do. Stay tuned.
Do you think any of the fine money to CeeDee Lamb will actually come out of any checks?
No.
Not a chance.
No.
And shouldn't.
No. I mean, you get the deal done. Let's all be happy. We're a family again, and let's just move forward as a group.
Okay, I'll bankroll the organization Christmas party, whatever.
Yes. I mean, what really did he miss? What are we really finding him for? He didn't miss anything. We know he's going to be ready.
Missed the Trey Lance show Saturday, didn't he?
Oh, what a show that was.
Was that a record for interceptions in a preseason game?
I would not be surprised if it was. Thankfully, I did not watch that game. I instead decided to watch the start of, Tarleton State and McNeese, and then the New Mexico game.
Beautiful. And you got McNeese right. They've dropped state.
They sure have. Yes, they're just McNeese, which is interesting. But yeah.
Speaking of that, Coach Nick Saban, I guess he hadn't heard about it being dropped here locally.
Brady's been busy. He's been awfully busy.
Says he likes Memphis State this year.
Says he likes Memphis State, but then who did he pick? Liberty, I think, in his.
I think so.
His